Hello, welcome back to our series, just answering some of your questions, and thanks for sending them in. Had a good amount come in, going to chip through and work through them as well. So, wanted to do this next session. Just had some questions about the countries that are developing or moving forward in the world. What are they doing, or what does it look like for them in terms of their baseball landscape and that as well? So, I thought. Who better to bring on than the legend or Australian royalty, Phil Brassington? Obviously, yeah, 18 years in the national program. Played for a bunch of ABL clubs in the old and the new ABL. Were drafted right at the top of the draft, the Kansas City Royals, and from all evaluators at the time, you're on the express train to the major leagues. It unfortunately wasn't set to be with some injuries. The only thing that held you back, and I guess that's a story for another time as well. But also were honoured to receive the award from the Queen Elizabeth II, for your sporting achievements in Australia as well. So nowadays live in Orange County in California in America there with beautiful wife and kids there. Know your young boy Jack is an absolute stud. Obviously comes from a great pedigree in terms of baseball, but just thought would have you on. Great to hear from you again. Obviously been a great supporter of the program and come out and coached and always been involved too. But just have a chat to you about, I guess, what's happening in terms of baseball over there. And I guess even with your son Jack too. But I guess before that, what are you up to? So you're there in California, you're married, kids, and yeah, what are you doing in the baseball world these days?
Mate, I'm pretty much full time in baseball at the moment. I have my own academy which I run with generally kids from 6 to 10. A little bit of introduction stuff, but I'm also working with a lot of kids that are playing in that travel ball world, and it's a varying width of skill sets that we're dealing with. I deal with the first time players. I'm doing a lot of private lessons in a week. I'll probably average from anywhere from 10 to 20 private lessons a week over here, and it keeps me really busy. I'm also at school trying to finish up my sports science degree, or my exercise science degree at KU, and I'm doing that with a minor in psychology. So I'm trying to direct where my studies are going into the baseball world that working with. I'm hoping to continue to work with some of the older kids that are going into college, kids that are looking to get into high school, and we're looking at trying to start programs for even middle school kids, looking for high school programs, and then those high school kids are looking to go into college, into whether it be junior college or D1 schools, and then in those D1 schools, kids trying to progress into professional baseball.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of loosely tied in along the way, but it's the demand here around where we are is massive. We play baseball year round. It doesn't stop. We're 3 seasons. You play you
Wow.
play fall, spring, and summer, and there's very little breaks. There's a matter of a couple of weeks here and there and breaks. Even at Jack's been playing since he was 4 in kind of structured, organized baseball. He started out at pony level, and then did the all-star trips and through the summer at pony, and then progressed into his travel team, which he's been with for about 18 months now.
Okay, and obviously it's a little bit different over there in America. Like kids play for high schools or colleges, while here in Australia, obviously play for clubs and that too. But at the younger age group, so you talked about pony and that there. How does it work for the younger kids?
So they start them at 3 here.
Wow.
They have introduction levels to T-ball. The local city has a program that they run where they employ some like college kids to just introduce the little kids into how T-ball works, hitting the ball, catching the ball, throwing, how the base running works. They give them an introduction. Then they can start T-ball at 4 with pony. I think Little League is pushed back a couple of years behind pony, but they start them real early in pony. They 5U, 4 and 5U. 4U is basically T-ball. The 4 to 5 year olds play T-ball, and then 5U goes into machine pitch, which is the Louisville Slugger Blue Flame flinks. So it's the spring-loaded machine. They play that 5 and 6U. And so this is our introduction. They get basically one season of T-ball, and then they go into hitting the moving ball. Once they get into 6U, some of the teams will split into an option of coach pitch or machine pitch, and then they go into either the jugs pitching machine at 7U, or they go into kid pitch, and then from there on, basically 8U also has what they call Pinto, which is the jugs single wheel machine. It's set up at 40 feet and it pitches at about 40 miles an hour. Then they just go into blown kid pitch after that. But the better of the kids, the more talented kids move into kid pitch at 7U. And out of Pony, you have a select league, which is sort of the teams picked out of the better players of select. They have all stars, which they go into regional play and super regional play, and then they have the Pony World Series play. So it's pretty full on from a really young age.
Okay, and how often are these kids getting the opportunity to play, competitive baseball?
So as I said, they can play 3 seasons a year. So it's almost year round.
Yeah.
The fall season is the quieter of the seasons. A lot of kids play football or basketball or soccer in the fall.
Yeah.
But there is a fall league in Pony and Little League. Then that leads into the major season, which is spring. And then summer tends to be the basically all stars, and they progress. The more they win, the more they play. We took Jack's team to the 2 World Series in Shetland in the machine pitch over the last 2 years, and so that basically carries right through to the end of July, pretty much. And then fall baseball starts again, pretty much straight after a couple of weeks after that.
Yeah.
So they're exposed to, they play every week in Pony through those seasons. Once they get into, say, travel ball, for example, you play a tournament and you can pick and choose how many tournaments you want to play. Some of these kids are playing every weekend. They play a minimum of 3 games in the tournament. Sometimes you're playing 6 games in a weekend. And the games add up real quick. I would guess that now at 7 years old, Jack probably is pushing up towards easily 150, possibly 200 games. That's 7.
Yeah, wow.
And he only turned 7 a month ago.
Yeah, right. So something that would take us probably 3, 4, 5 years to do in Australia.
Yeah,
that's it.
I can't remember. It probably took me 7 or 8 seasons to get my 200 games up with Tuggeran when I was playing there. So you play 20 odd games a season.
Yeah.
We're playing 20 games a month sometimes.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. So it's obviously, I guess no surprise that the talent comes out the other end of that, and just the amount that the kids are just fundamentally developed and that too. So how big does travel ball play in the whole system? So over there, how popular is it?
It's ridiculously big. The kids that develop quickly in Pony and Little League don't want to stay there too much longer, because what happens is in those leagues there's basically a fairness draft every year. So they have to reshuffle teams every year, so there's a balance of good and new players on the teams. The experienced players are always playing with kids who are brand new to the game. They have to play a certain amount of field innings in the infield. They've got to play in the outfield. So a lot of the more advanced kids can't even throw the ball to the kids that have never played before. So they can't make plays. Gets a little frustrating. This is where I was at with Jack, and a few of us other families were with our kids that were around the game a bit longer. So we decided to put them into the travel level, where they were going to play against and with kids that were at the same type of ability that they were. So they could play at their full potential, let the ball fly, throw without having to worry about the kid not catching it and wearing it in the face or not paying attention.
Yeah.
So it is there's separation of talent of teams in travel ball. Some teams are fully assembled just to win tournaments. Other teams are put together much like our team, that we're hoping to keep the kids together over X amount of years and let them develop naturally and just keep them working with similar coaches. Other teams come and go. They're put together for one season, then they disperse. Some, and it's some kids can't handle that level. Other kids exceed. They move around a little bit. A lot of parents take kids to multiple teams over seasons. But it is we go to some tournaments that have 16, 7U teams, and we're just playing in the Southern California division. Throughout the country, I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds of teams are playing at this age group.
Yeah, wow.
And there's some outstanding kids playing at this level, some really, really strong, outstanding athletes that you look at them, you're like, the kid's got to be 10,
Yeah.
and they're just turning 6 or 7.
Yeah, wow. Okay. And then you've obviously been around the game for a long period of time. You've been to America there, but you obviously grew up and know the whole system here in Australia and all the rest of it, extremely well as well. What's your personal opinion? Obviously, what works for one player doesn't always work for all.
Yeah.
Everyone's journey is unique, but how beneficial is just being able to play that amount of baseball?
It's huge. I really think, the more kids play, especially, the more exposed you get to the speed of the game and the flow of the game and the multiple things that can happen on any given pitch. There's an awareness of the kids that play more and an anticipation of what's happening ahead of time. And that's what makes a lot of difference between the kids who are standouts as they're younger, is that they've played so much. They understand that there's multiple things that can happen when the ball's hit to them. They also understand that when the ball's not to hit to them, there's somewhere to be. So I found the kids that don't play that often, that might play just one season a year, they don't really get that as quick, for obvious reasons. They're not around it. They get stronger, they get faster, they react better to harder pitching and different situations. They become a little tougher. They start to accept the failures that come with the game a little better because they happen so much more often. And the speed of the game, the understanding that if they bobble a ball, there's no play at second, they pick it up, they throw it to first rather than just standing there not really sure what to do. So that starts happening at a much, much earlier age now. That I look at the standard 7U pony player who's played maybe 1 or 2 seasons, and we compared them to the kids that Jack plays with and against, for example, and they can't. It's not even close. So there's a definite building of an understanding of the game that happens, and it's probably more mental than it is physical. While it is obviously physical, I think it's much more the quickness of the mental approach and the understanding the speed that the game works. It comes much more much quickly.
Yeah.
So,
And if you were back involved in Australia, you moved back over here and that, what do you think would be beneficial or for help or anyone listening out there, your advice or recommendations, to help them move on and be an elite athlete, like yourself and like so many of these athletes that you do work with there in America?
yeah, I think we've got to play more. I think, yes, there's got to be limitations on pitching and catching and some of those strenuous parts of the positions that you've really got to manage pitching well. There's a huge emphasis on velocity now, but there's also a massive realization that injuries are rife throughout baseball now due to the fact that people are just trying to throw so hard. You can still be mechanically great and get injured because you're throwing as hard as you can at max velocity all the time. That will last longer if you're stronger, if you're in better condition, if you're biomechanically more correct than say you throw with your elbow up as opposed to throwing with your elbow slightly below your shoulder. That extra strain is gonna show over time. But I think just the amount that you play is going to make you a better all-round player in every aspect of the game. It's going to give you more game fitness. It's going to give you more game awareness. It's going to give you a higher baseball IQ. It's going to prepare you, say for in Australia, it's going to prepare you for the rigors of college and professional baseball, which a lot of the Australian kids don't really get until they get here and they become overwhelmed with everyday baseball. And we're not conditioned for that. I found the same thing when I got here. You know, it's every day you're working out, you're throwing, you're catching, you're running, you're doing it every single day. Whereas at home, you know, we do it 2 trainings a week and a game on the weekend,
Yeah.
and then you sort of rest. So we're well behind the eight ball in the amount of time we spend playing and working out on the game.
Yeah, no, that's great advice on that too. And how important do you think it is? Like you've been on travellers tours beforehand, and just your honest opinion. Obviously, we've gone to Florida and travelled, and kids living out of a suitcase and playing, teams like 2 years ago, we're playing the Scorpions and Jackson Holidays there. He was the number one overall draft pick, in the uniform, playing against us. And that over there. But just in your honest opinion, you've been involved in a number of programs and all the rest of it. But just for kids to be able to come over and experience that playing baseball against the best or the mother country, so to speak.
Well, in answering that, let me ask you how many kids complain that they play too much baseball when they come away,
Yeah,
right? None of them.
yeah,
No one's ever said this is too much for me.
yeah,
Every one of them's like every day, can't wait to go and play their game. You know, and that speaks for itself. You know, you can play a lot more baseball than you do. And I think that there's a lack of Australia of being allowed to play more. You know, there seems to be a bit of an emphasis on we've got to rest and we have to look after our arms and all that sort of things. But I think it's quite the opposite. You know, you don't learn to grind from sitting at home resting. You learn to grind from being on the field and getting tough when it gets hard.
yeah,
Yeah. And that's where the grind happens. The guys who make the big leagues are the guys that can handle the minor leagues easily. They can handle that grind. They can handle the tough bus trips. They can mentally be there every day when they have to be. You know, I was lucky to be a starting pitcher. I sort of, once every 5 days was my spot. But you look at the everyday players who are, playing the outfield or catching every day of the week. You got to love it, and you got to be prepared to do that. And you can't do that if you don't have experience doing it.
yeah,
If you're thrown into the fire, the average Australian kid doesn't make a D1 college. The average Australian kid doesn't play pro ball. You know, they don't get those opportunities. There's not many of us that have had the chance to go and try and make a career in professional baseball. And many of us that do, we go away, we get worn out, you get injured, you miss home. It's a lot. So I think early on preparation for that is vital. I really think we should try and figure out how to play maybe 2 seasons a year in Australia, like the higher levels. Even the Australian Baseball League only goes for 3 months.
yeah. If
You know,
that,
3 months, and they play what I did 60 games
yeah,
in that ballpark, 50, 60 games. So my kid plays that in some summers.
yeah,
And he's,
yeah,
so, and it can, we're playing the perfect game, and the USSSA World Series are coming up for us, and those are 5-day tournaments. So, we play start Friday, finish Tuesday or Wednesday. These kids are going to play 7 games, and those who win that play into the finals brackets may play 8 or 10,
yeah,
and that's just one weekend. One solid tournament of baseball. So
yeah,
it's yeah, and they love it. My kid Jack filled in for a team that he doesn't play for today, and he played 2 games in the heat. He caught the first one, he pitched in the second one, and can I fill in for them every time we've got a weekend off?
yeah,
It was yeah, they just love it because they know what they're doing and they're confident, and playing builds more confidence.
yeah, absolutely. And I guess just in wrapping it up, it'll be a good time. We'll put you on the spot. So there you go. But what what do you wish you knew looking back at your career now? Or what advice can you pass on, to anyone coming up through the ranks of baseball now?
I would say work harder than you're working. Outwork people. I relied on my ability to throw the ball hard. I look back and I was like, I could have done a lot more. So if I could go back now and start it again, um, I would have paid more attention to what my future held in the game as opposed to what I was doing right now. I would have spent more time in the gym. I would have spent more time staying flexible. I would have tried to minimize my chances to get injured, having gone through all the injuries I did. I feel like there's probably a lot more things I could have done early on to avoid that. So I would have, yeah, I think I would have worked harder, especially gym wise, fitness wise, flexibility wise. I definitely would have done much more of that to make sure that every chance that I got to go on the field, I could perform at the best of my ability. I tended, like I said, I think I relied more on just my natural ability to throw hard, and didn't perhaps feel like I needed to pay as much attention on maintenance as I did. I would have liked to. I'd love to still play now if I could physically, but that doesn't happen. When you can barely scratch your head. However, I think that that would have been my go. That's what I would tell players now is push harder than you're doing it now. Really think about how are you going to be better than the best person you know? How are you going to be as good as the best people you play against? What do you need to do that? It's an investment. I have dozens and dozens of kids that come to me every month that whose parents are paying a lot of money for them to do private lessons so that they can get better at a young age. 5, 6, 7, 8 year olds that are doing weekly private lessons to compete. And those are the kids that start to excel very quickly. Hopefully they stay in the game because they stay good at it and they enjoy being good at it. We never had a chance. I mean, who had a private baseball coach when we were playing? So that was unheard of.
Yeah.
If I knew, said if we had these things available that we have now, the video and the technology and the coaching and all that sort of stuff, I would utilize it. Utilize the resources that you have to improve your game, improve your knowledge of the game. So that's, like I said, that's what I would have done. I would have worked harder and probably tried to be physically the best I could be.
Phil Brassington, as always, appreciate your time. Thank you very much, and hope forward to catch up with you soon.
Sounds good, mate.